worth messing around. Alright, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and today I've got a couple of announcements to make, and then we're going to do some Bitcoin stuff as always. Look, first of all, this should go without saying, okay, I think, if we're honest, there's been enough scammers in this space for enough length of time that most people are probably not going to be caught out with this, but this is pretty nasty, okay? This is a impersonation account of mine on Twitter. He actually has more followers than I do, which that's funny to me. But look, it's not really funny because he is apparently approaching people and asking for money in Bitcoin. Look, obviously, I hope, obviously, I will never ask you for anything. I will never ask you for money. I will certainly never ask you to send me cryptocurrency. And remember, as a cryptocurrency holder, you are your own bank, okay? If you send crypto away, you're the security team, you're the fraud team, you're the how do I get that back team, okay? You are the entire bank. So once you send crypto to someone, needless to say, you're not getting it back, okay? Just remember that. Also remember, I will obviously never ask you for any money or anything at all. So please, please, please look out for this. If you do see any of these accounts, then you can just quickly do a report for impersonation on Twitter. And Twitter's usually pretty good at getting rid of them. But I suspect this is not the first one I've seen, and it probably won't be the last, unfortunately. The next announcement I wanted to make is a massive thank you for all the support on the channel. And of late, a lot of people have been using the Buy Me a Coffee link to buy me a rum, which I really, really, really appreciate it. Speaking of rum, I'm going to be drinking some of that rum on Saturday during a recording with CPM and Cobra Stacker. So that video will be coming out on Sunday around 2 p.m. GMT on Creative Precious Metals channel. So please go over to CPM's channel, hit that subscribe button, show him some love, and tune in on Sunday to see where a bunch of drinking whiskey and rum and talking about finance takes our conversation. Apparently we're going to be joined this time around by the mighty Cobra Stacker as well, so please head over to his channel and show him some love as well. And as I said, please do tune in at 2 p.m. approximately GMT on Sunday to have a look at our long-form informal discussion on all things gold, silver and Bitcoin and beyond. In today's episode, we're going to be working through the tabs I've got open, okay? And then I'm going to be pointing at a couple of things. Bitcoin's all-time high break in USD is quite similar structurally to what we saw in the GBP, which tells me that if the thing is going to repeat, we kind of should know exactly what to expect over the coming week from Bitcoin. So I want to discuss that, and I want to show you something that I spotted in MicroStrategy yesterday that perhaps has some nasty implications for an early top coming in for Bitcoin. So I'm going to show you that as well. Of course, as always, we're going to hop through a few charts, and people have been asking me to cover the crypto-related equities, so I'll do a little slightly deeper deep dive into those four. So without further ado, look, when the gold ETF got approved, they increased the supply to get more gold to the market. But the demand for Bitcoin is going parabolic, and the supply is going to be cut in half in 44 days. So we haven't actually seen this before. Remember, because Bitcoin is a hard cap supply, you can't do what you do with gold, which is as the price goes up, it motivates people to go and mine more gold, okay? So whilst we can motivate more hash rate and more security and more competition for miners, we cannot find a price at which more Bitcoin can be generated. Also, as I said just now, we're only about 44 days away from halving the miner block reward supply. So again, what a wild time to be alive. Also, we're approaching the halving event. Bitcoin appears right on time when you align the April 2021 high with a price cycle. Once all-time highs are made, Bitcoin has a history of doubling within 60 days, which is really Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things. So if I click right here, you can see, if we use, in white, the 2021 high, which was about 65k, instead of the ultimate high, which was 69k, as the top, okay, if we use this one from back here as the actual top, the structural top, which was, of course, confirmed by many on-chain metrics and a bunch of other things, such as MicroStrategy's top, which I'm going to show you in just a minute. At the hard right edge, it tells us to keep an open mind about seeing a doubling in the price of Bitcoin within the next 60 days, assuming we can break the all-time high any day now. Needless to say, that would of course put us somewhere in the 120k plus neighborhood. And if the prior cycle were to repeat, you can see that we could perhaps get as high as 220k. I will say this whilst we're here, I don't like the idea of using the 2021 as the top, okay? A lot of people seem to think, as I said, because of the on-chain metrics, because of certain other confirmations like in MicroStrategy, which I'll show you, a lot of people seem to think that this is a more structural high. This is more the real top, and this just happened to be a higher high. But from a cycle perspective, remember, a lot of people that are not cycle traders don't actually understand how to measure the cycle correctly. A lot of people use the highs, a lot of people use the halvings. Remember, the correct way to measure a cycle, according to cycle theory, is bear market low to bear market low. So when we do that, this top right here was exactly 35, 36 bars, whatever the number is, it's exactly what we've done in prior cycles. It's exactly the right amount of candles to give us a perfect right translated cycle prior to a 12-month bear market decline, which is of course very typical for Bitcoin. So according to cycle theory, I say this was indeed the all-time high and this was indeed the ultimate top. But I do understand that this top was very, very difficult because we had this sort of Wyckoff distribution, and like I said, we had a bunch of actual topping indicators on the on-chain data that flashed to say this was indeed the structural top. So you can pick your poison. I think this is also a slightly dangerous stance to have when we start to call this the top, okay, from 2021, because that suggests, right, that the cycles are changing length, and they're not, okay? 4 years, low to low, is how they're measured. So if you have this approach, the temptation is going to be, assuming we get something like this play out, that, oh, we're only going to have a 12-month bear market decline, okay? And therefore, the cycles are shortening, and then perhaps the next one's going to be even more rapid. Okay, that's going to be the temptation if we apply this logic. But of course, people that are actually cycle traders, people that are familiar with cycles will know that if we do this, okay, what that actually tells us is the 4-year cycle low is still going to be 4 years away, right? So that really means we've got longer to spend in a bear market decline. And of course, that is what I have been championing as the path of maximum pain. Most people will not be ready because they have been conditioned to expect just 12 months of bear market decline. If we end up with 24 or more months, however many months is left in the 4-year cycle as a bear market, most people will probably be looking to buy dips somewhere in the 12-month neighborhood. And of course, they will most probably be rolling over into that 4-year cycle low. So as ever, one day at a time. I don't like this as an idea, but undeniably, I do think this is what we're doing on the hard right edge, okay? So I think this portion is right. I do think we're getting an early parabola, but like I said, I do think we've got more time, according to cycle theory, before we can see that true bear market low. In other news, Bitcoin made a new all-time high where it matters, okay? The Bitcoin market cap has just traded at the highest price ever, $1.32 trillion market cap. This is only just getting started. Remember, we want somewhere in the 9 to 13 trillion to rival that of gold's. And as many of you are very switched on in the comment section, you've been pointing out to me that we shouldn't really be being excited about a 69K break for Bitcoin, because adjusted for inflation, we need 76,623 bucks for Bitcoin to see a new all-time high, inflation adjusted. But make no mistake about it, it's coming, okay? It's just a matter of time. I also found this, and this was pretty crazy. The famous Bitcoin stock to flow model has us at 1.25 million just 17 months from now. Now, this is a modified stock to flow. This is, I believe, not Plan B's. This is somebody else that modified it. And there's always people that say I'm delusional when I say this. Listen, don't hear what you want to hear what I'm saying. Okay, what I'm saying is this is some data and I'm presenting it. I didn't say we're going to 1.2 million. I just said this is some data. This is a modified stock to flow. And you can see that for the most part, we have tracked it, right? We're not that far away from it. Now, again, I'm not saying it will play out. I'm just saying it's pretty interesting that we get 1.25 million bucks in 463 days. Because in my mind, if we get anywhere close to that number in the next year and a bit, I will be more than happy with that performance. Bitcoin, whether it goes that high or goes significantly lower, is still about to absolutely shock the world. Whilst we will have all been expecting it, most people are still sleeping on this, right? Most people have no clue Bitcoin is doing Bitcoin things. Most people have no clue that people like you and I are jumping up and down with joy every day to see what is happening in this space. Here we have the MVRV Z score, okay? Look at the hard right edge. It has plenty of space before it gets into the red zone, where historically we have seen the top come in for Bitcoin. So, big pump loading, I think so. And so with all that said, I wanted to point out a couple of things. Right here, I've got Bitcoin in the Great British Pound. Okay, if I zoom in at the hard right edge, what do we see? We saw a run up to just miss the all-time high denoted by this green horizontal line. Then we got kind of a shakeout, a little bit of a flag, and then we went. This will be forever remembered by me because I popped a cork to celebrate this all-time high break on the live stream, and then the top came in for it in the very short term. But the point remains the same, okay? You see, we just missed the all-time high, kind of had a bit of a shakeout, worked our way up, and then a few days later, we broke it, back tested, now looking to resume to the upside potentially. So why do I bring this up? Because if I pull up the Bitcoin chart and I add a green horizontal line to denote the prior all-time high, you can see what we've done, right? We came, if I zoom in and get it correctly on my screen, we came just within touching distance of the all-time high, have now been having a shakeout, and I do wonder if what we're going to see is something a little bit more like this before breakout, retest, and off we go to the races. So in the short term, it looks like that all-time break is imminent. It looks to me like Bitcoin is doing Bitcoin things, and of course we love to see it. But do you remember at the start I was talking about MicroStrategy potentially having some ominous implications? I wanted to show you this, okay? If I take my MicroStrategy chart, put it into line, and then add a Bitcoin chart over the top of it, and we look back to the prior cycle, in green is MicroStrategy, okay, and in orange is Bitcoin. What you will notice is MicroStrategy put in this parabolic blow off top right here, okay? And that was, if I mark this with a vertical arrow, a vertical line, you can see on the 10th of February. Now, Bitcoin's top in orange, this top right here, came right around the 15th of April, and then we had this pullback. And what you'll notice is we then had Bitcoin bounce from 30-ish K up to that ultimate high of about 69K. I'll put in a blue arrow there for you, a blue vertical line, sorry. And what you can see is that MicroStrategy never actually made a new high with it, okay? This was a high that was significantly above the lower high that MicroStrategy printed here when Bitcoin went on to just run a new, fresh, all-time high into the 69K level. So the case I submit to you here is that MicroStrategy had an early blow off top, right? And then just 2-ish months later, I mean, this is what, February 10th, and then April the 14th. So a little over 2 months later, Bitcoin puts in a significant top. And that was all she wrote for MicroStrategy. Now, if I fast forward to today at the hard right edge, you can see MicroStrategy going parabolic, okay, right as Bitcoin is set to break its prior all-time high. I wonder if what we are going to see out of MicroStrategy is a parabolic blow-off top breakdown, something like this. And that, of course, if history were to repeat, if history were to rhyme, would tell us to expect the top around 2 months later, which gives us a time frame of perhaps the first or second week of May for Bitcoin. So I've added this blue line right here, as you can see. Are we going to see MicroStrategy break down like this, whilst Bitcoin does something more like this, okay? Puts in its parabolic blow off top and then tops just a couple of months later. It is something I want to keep an eye on. And given how parabolic this chart is, okay, given that we have, if I put it into log, probably got one angle, two angles, and arguably we are in the middle of setting a third angle, something like this, which is near vertical. You know, I think if we're going to lose this third upward sloping angle of attack, I am more than happy to take a big chunk of this profit off, because, you know, we got in all the way back here on this first position, we stacked a second position, and now it's right up around the all-time high level. So I think if we break down from here, seems like a pretty reasonable place to take a chunk off. And then what we should get, particularly if we violate this parabola, something like this, is a larger pullback. And then from there, we could draw a trend line, right? And time this with a 60-day cycle low for Bitcoin, which is due around April or something. We could play the breakout, manage the risk around that breakout and that cycle low. And then if it is to break down again, whilst putting in a lower high, we can say, yeah, that was probably the top from back here. We probably did repeat what happened back here with MicroStrategy and with Bitcoin. And by then, we will probably be looking for the top to come in for Bitcoin as well. So I'm still looking to push MicroStrategy. I'm still looking to see what I can extract from the market. But if we break down from this third angle of attack, right? 1 in yellow, 2 in blue, 3 near vertical. If we break down from that, this is on log scale as well, remember? So if we break down from that, I think I'm going to take quite a large chunk off and sit on the side and get ready to see what can happen going forward. Coinbase looks much more reasonable. Again, this is in log scale. So we've got our first angle, our second angle. Arguably, we're setting a third angle here. Okay, arguably. So maybe that is an area to watch, particularly as we start to get later and later into Bitcoin's 60-day cycle. Again, with so much of this move captured, I think taking a little bit off as we start to approach the prior highs is only reasonable to do. But I do want to use that again to re-enter, build more positions as we move into what is potentially the final blow-off top portion of Bitcoin's melt-up rally. Riot is showing relative underperformance and relative weakness here, isn't it? So that probably says something. I take this off of log. I think it looks a great deal better off of log. So, I mean, we'll see, right? We'll see if we can hold support. We'll see what happens here. If we have to pay a stop, well, we still have plenty of exposure across the board. And Marathon as well, I think this needs to be in log. That's why the lines look weird. So again, we've got our first angle in red. Our second angle is being set. I think all the while we're above the second angle, then it's reasonable to expect continuation and upside before a third angle. I'm still kind of hoping and looking to add a second position to Marathon, but it's probably not going to come until that April 60-day cycle low for Bitcoin. So we will see. Still keeping an eye on the stock market, seeing if this yellow squiggle will roughly play out. We are expecting this daily cycle to left translate and then to go hunting for a weekly cycle low. And I wonder if that is why we're seeing some relative underperformance in the blockchain stocks. Same deal for the NASDAQ, right? We are continuing to watch this one move higher and expecting this thing to left translate and break down in the not too distant future. The Dow Jones, we're still pushing this. The Dow Jones is looking relatively weaker, isn't it? The Dow Jones isn't exploding higher, but all the while we're above the support in red, we'll continue to push the long. And the Russell 2K again, same deal. All the while we continue to hold above support, we will continue to push the longs. Gold, I added a position, I added a long yesterday. I notified the members. So we've seen enough, right? We've seen enough. This is clearly a break above all-time highs. As I was saying yesterday, I was having this internal battle with myself. I couldn't figure out why. And I think ultimately I was just paying too much attention to my intuition instead of looking at the charts, right? What does the chart say? New weekly cycle lows in. We've got an all-time high break on a daily and monthly closing basis for February. So long and strong, right? Long and strong continue to push. I said in the members there's 2% account risk. If it does get stopped out, I'll just re-enter again on the daily cycle low. And if it continues to tear higher and pull back, then again, I will add and move the stops up as I do with the crypto-related stocks. So we got double the exposure without taking any additional risk. The time will come for silver and the miners, but that time is not yet. With that said, I did add a gold miner in the members section as well. So I actually have 4% sector risk at the moment. And of course, my rule is I'll tolerate up to 6% sector risk. So for now, long this, long one individual gold miner, and we'll see what the market can give. As always, it's not about being right or wrong. It's just I want to stay on the right side of the trade. This thing seems to want higher. So of course, I want to be part of that. And last but not least, okay, I think I might be invalidated on my idea that the housing market cycle had topped early. So a lot of you have been screaming at me about this. Oh, the 18-year cycle has got to go on. Yeah, maybe it has. I thought it had topped early, and I thought some of the reason is if we just look at this VNQ, right, the housing market ETF. I mean, that doesn't look super bullish to me. It looks like a massive downtrend, in my humble opinion. And I showed this, which is the fractal, if I put it on a weekly time frame, from the 2008 great financial crisis. Kind of fits pretty well, in my humble opinion, right? We were in this kind of neighborhood, something like this. And I was saying, I wonder if we're going to get a rollover and a plunge to complete this move, something similar like that. And of course, we haven't done it just yet, okay? So for now, we are moving back into resistance and trying to break out on a daily closing basis. Now, if it rejects here and does something like this, then fine, okay? We'll just continue to push the short. But if we start to close daily candles outside the downward sloping red resistance line on the outside one that we've got here, then undeniably what we've got is a trend change. And if anything, you'd want to be long here more than short. Now, I'm not sure I'm interested in longing this. I think I have plenty of exposure, and with the cash I have sidelined, I'm happy to sit there and leave that for dip buying opportunities and use that to add to momentum positions that are already winning. So there's certainly a thesis for a long here if we get breakout retest resumption. But personally for me, that's not really something I'm super interested in. So as ever, right, when we're riding a trade to the upside, right, when we are pushing along something like this, and what we want to see is this thing continue to hug support, and we put this back into log, right? When we're pushing a trade and we've got a trend line and we used our trend line as our line in the sand, we want to continue to push the long until we break down, right? But it's the complete opposite on a short with a upside resistance, right? A downward sloping red resistance line. So I want to keep pushing the short all the while we're contained under this, okay? But the moment we start to break out on multiple daily closing bases and start to move higher, then I want to cut this trade. I want to get out the way of it, because you don't want to be shorting something that has a big downward sloping red resistance line and the price does breakout retest resumption on, right? I don't want to be short during that. So as always, we'll give it a little bit of space. We'll see if what we get is a little fake out and a reversal. And if we do, we'll keep pushing the short. But it looks to me like this is an early warning sign to say this thing wants to invalidate my idea. And we also have another hint provided from this market in the form of we had this flush down, right? And then a push back up. It did not break down and do this, did it? It didn't do what we thought it would do. It didn't do what the fractal suggested. What it did was have a short, shallow pullback and then a bounce, now looking to do that breakout. So looking a lot like VNQ wants to invalidate me. That's absolutely fine. If we have to cut this trade somewhere up in this neighborhood, then, you know, no harm, no foul, really. That is a negligible stop loss, and we would have pushed the trade until it became unreasonable to continue to do so. So that's all we can do. As ever, I'll continue to show you all my trades, win, loss, or draw, continue to have full transparency. Sometimes they fail, right? It is what it is. I'm not going to pretend like I have a 97% hit rate like some of those traders claim to have. From time to time, they don't work. And as always, I will continue to do what I don't believe many other YouTubers do, which is show you all my positions and make them all public, call them out ahead of time, and even hold my hands up when I get a few wrong and they get stopped out. So as always, we'll continue to do that. For now, like I said, not a great deal has changed. Want to pay attention to the crypto stocks, want to pay attention to Bitcoin as always. I want to see how high gold can go in the short to medium term. In the meantime, I hope you're doing well in life. I hope you enjoy your day. Take care from me. All the best. Cheers. Bye.